You know, retouch in the old-fashioned way, they used to have to retouch the film and then work on the photograph even when it was finished. The print finisher would have to work on it. I did that for years, just worked on photographs with Veronica cast dyes. And now everything's just, the digital image goes in the computer, and don't you just tell the computer to go ahead and enhance it, and it happens. Sadly, that's what art's kind of become too. Everything's just copies and digital this and digital that. And you can take a photograph of the tree and make it look like a painting. Okay. Sam has brown eyes. So I'm going to mix a little purple. It's called ultramarine violet and Van Dyke brown. I rarely use brown by itself. Many times I don't even have brown in my palette, but I do like this Van Dyke brown by Martin F. Weber. Van Dyke brown and a little purple. So it's rich. Very rich. I do the whole eye, not just the pupil, but the iris and the pupil. Everything gets that dark color to start. The lid, try to get a little line under the lid. Really don't want to lean on this because it's wet, so I'll try. I don't use a maul stick, but I might, you know, kind of turn it upside down, something like that. If anybody has not read the book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, I do recommend that. I used to do kind of crafts and sewing and things like that. And then I read a book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards. And it changed the way I saw things as far as drawing. And it's really helpful. Now that type of, that technique is, there's many books about right side drawing. But Betty Edwards pioneered this idea many years ago. So this is all very dark. The eyes are the darkest part of anybody's face. If you squint down, even the lady in the blue pants, from here, her eyes are very dark. Her eyes are just as dark as her pants. The color of her eyes, I can't tell, but I can tell their eyes are dark. So don't be afraid of getting those eyes dark. Even people that have light eyes, they'll still be dark. They could be green or hazel. And be careful your eyes are not a target sign. In other words, almost always the lid is a covering, it's a hood. It goes over the eye. So you really can't see the top of the iris unless I'm frightened, and then I might open my eyes really, really wide. But, and the older we get, of course, the smaller our eyes get. We get small eyes and big ears. Have you noticed that? I don't know why that happened.
The nose keeps going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And gravity, everything goes south. What is that? So you can kind of tell the age of a person just based on the eyes, of course, and the ears. And children many times have really a lot of fat in their faces, so they are quite pudgy looking. Okay, so as you can see, the eyes are really quite dark. Now, in order to get the pupil even darker, go into the brown, a little bit of purple, Just mix all my dark colors. Hardly any water. Can you see that? It's very, very thick. Very, very thick and very dark. That's going to be the pupil. And you don't have to outline the pupil. If you look closely at your own eye, and incidentally, that's a good thing, self-portrait. Just put a mirror up. If you've never done a self-portrait, you'll learn a lot about features. Vincent van Gogh painted 40 self-portraits. He only painted for 10 years. He only sold one painting. He died when he was 37. Just think about all the paintings he could have painted. So you always have yourself to paint. If you can't find a photo of anybody, paint yourself. Now, in order to get the glow with the pastel pencils, I need to let that dry a little bit. Is it time for a break yet?
If you want.
Okay, let's take a break and then I'll continue on in a little bit. Any questions? Any questions before I go on to finish up the portrait?
What is a found edge?
A found edge is a hard edge. A hard edge. Same as a hard edge. In other words, maybe where the hair meets the skin, that would be a found edge. Right where the eye meets the lid, that would be a found edge.
Why is it called found edge?
It's a hard edge,
But
lost and found. A lost edge is an open edge or a soft edge. So lost and found, I think that's where it comes from. Lost and found edges, hard and soft edges, lights and darks. In that little gray thing that I showed you, that checkerboard, that was in an art magazine someplace, maybe a year or 2 years ago. And I think I might have copied the magazine instead of getting it off the internet. But if you just Google checkerboard, value checkerboard, you'll probably come up with something very similar to that. But I hope that really helped to prove that your eye sometimes will trick you. That's why you need to get one of those value finders. Just go to the paint store, get one of those strips with the hole punch some holes in it. So any other questions about edges? Okay, back to Sam. So this is the a dry one. This is the one that I was working on before the break. I set the eyes in. So I'm going to work a little bit on the eyes now. I can see that this eye here needs to be a little rounder there. Don't be afraid of making corrections too. If something's not right, well, make it right. Don't ever be afraid. Only if you're skydiving, then you can be afraid. I have all these little sayings. Tom Fong had a lot of sayings too, and I would write them down. In his class, I would always write down what Tom was saying. And it's so true. It's just a piece of paper. Any of you have seen Tom Fong demonstrate, you'll know he just goes like this in the palette. He doesn't even look. He really knows what he's doing, though.
yes, it does.
So the eyelid casts a little shadow over the top part of the eye, where the white of the eye is. Because this lid casts a shadow, I must have a little bit of a shadow color there. So it's blue. It's in there already. I'm just going to reinforce it a little bit more. The lid casts a shadow. So the top of the eye that's white would not be pure white. It must have a little bit of a value in it.
Teri,
Yes.
the little little glow that you put in, were you using the pencil with it, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually I start, good question. Hetty, is it? Good question. You can use kind of a yellow color. This one is permanent yellow light. Almost pure pigment, and try to get that glow going. Let's see if we can get it.
So is that a fairly opaque color?
Yes, it's very opaque, and even though these pigments don't dry out, you'll find that this yellow probably will get a little drier than, say, the blues. So I'm pretty much getting what I think would be a good glow there with the yellow color. But again, it's almost pure pigment. Then directly across from that, directly across from the glow, is the highlight. And I might even make that a little stronger with acrylic white later on. Again, Watercolor West will not allow this, so if you're a purist, be careful that you don't use any pencil, any kind of colored pencil. So I think you guys can see already that those eyes really come to life. Oh, and incidentally, I have to say that all the art on the table was wonderful. I love the stories that each one of you had to tell with your artwork. Nicely done, all of you. It's hard to choose just one. Because the eye is round, the middle of the lid will be lighter. So right here, I'm purposely painting around there. This will be a little darker, and this will be a little darker. But it will stay light in the middle because the eye is round. I like to put in the corner of the eye an orangey red color right there. To me, that, if you look closely at all my portraits, you'll see that that's kind of my signature. And if you look really close at your own eyes, I don't know what they call that part in there.
Tear duct.
Tear ducts?
Wouldn't it be your tear duct?
Yeah. It's right there, and it's very red, right there. To me, that just really brings the life into the portrait. So the same thing with this eye. Again, I'm using a smaller brush now. This is it's a Utrecht brush called Red Sable Blend. It's probably a 2 or a 4. I've noticed that brush sizes vary a lot from maker to maker. So if you want a number 2 brush from one company, a number 2 brush from a different company may not be the same size.
If you have the eyes right, you don't need much else.
That's right, yes. The eyes are the soul of the sitter. So many times when I get to this part of the portrait, I will go ahead and try to get the eyes in. And I'm glad I got to put the eyes in because I couldn't wait to get those in. And I refrained from working on this portrait because I haven't finished it at all at home. Again,
Teri, are you working basically with dry brush right now? Almost?
Yes, almost dry brush. The paper is dry.
Paper's dry.
The paper's dry now, yes. So when I first started, there was a lot of water and a lot of pigment and a lot of loose edges. Everything was very soft and very loose with the big brush. And then I went to the mid brush. Now I'm using the smaller brush because it's mostly details now.